This Sunday morning. Everybody
guys
good?
good?
We're
Getting
good?
better?
We're getting, absolutely getting better. All right. All right, so today's Sunday talk is Our Little Willingness. Infinite Pathways. I love those creative titles, those titles that kind of get you to begin to get your imagination going. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, this would actually help. Perfect. We good? All right. All right. So, as human beings, our experiences, everything that we experience here is based on our interpretations and how we interpret events, how we interpret things that are going on in our lives, in wherever we are, whoever we're coming in contact with. It's almost like we have an interpreter that's going on 24/7 or something like that. In cultural lore, this interpretation, we get creative with that, and in cultural lore, it's depicted as like having like a little angel or a little devil on your shoulders. Course in Miracles calls it basically God and the ego. Unity discusses it in terms of our higher divine consciousness and our lower egocentric nature. So, in the midst of all of this, all of these things that we have going on, all of this interpretation we have is our will. Our will. And so our will can kind of be interpreted, or a metaphor for our will can be like an interface, as if we are networked to this grand system, like an interface, like a computer. And with this interface, we can basically issue executive commands in this interface. If you're not aware, there are 64 definitions that I was able to find in the dictionary on will. But the one that I actually liked the best was a desire, purpose, or determination, especially by one in authority. By one in authority. So, think of our will as a huge boulder that sits on top of a hill. And that boulder is sitting there. It's basically in place. And so when we will to do something, that boulder, that will that we have within us, with that divine interface, is able to, if we are in alignment with spirit, and when I say our will, I mean our will and God's will being one. Okay, we have the will of the personality, and then we have what is our divine will, our higher self will. But we sometimes can't recognize that will. A lot of times, we have so many things going on. There's so many things going on in current events and in our lives, and there's all these different things, all these changing things. It's sometimes difficult to differentiate what is our will as far as the personality and what is our divine will. So that's kind of what this is about, as far as bringing us into alignment with our divine will. Okay, so the earliest scientific or record in physicality for divine principle in action, which is basically our will, which is basically that catalyst that kind of moves things. And once we will something, the universe basically begins to move and shift in accordance to what is our will. But the very first record in physicality was the Big Bang. In the Big Bang. The very first scriptural reference of divine will in action was, and then God said, let there be light. And then there was light. That's the very first place where there was a desire to create something, a desire to experience something other than what was being experienced at that time. So that is what I'm referring to. Okay. All right. So everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we do these things to bring forth new experiences. We feel a desire, and we naturally do these things. We naturally feel these desires that come. And so it's like, I want this, I want that, I would like to do this, I would like to do that. And certain instances seems like they're a little bit easier to accomplish than others. And I'm going to shed a little bit of light on that. Now, the experiences that we bring forth are inner realizations. They're all inner realizations. Forget the external, but they are inner realizations. They begin inside, and then they begin to, at that point, begin to radiate outwards in the form of expression, where we express, or manifestation. So, why is all of this important? Why am I discussing all of this as far as like, okay, why is Stephen talking about how, how this happens and how things are manifested and things like that? Well, I'm talking about this because there are other things that come into play as we attempt to experience that which we desire to experience. The first thing I'm going to talk about is chemicalization. Chemicalization. Now, if any of you have not heard of chemicalization, I'm going to read a little bit about it.
It's not a made-up word?
Nope, it's not a made-up word. It's not a made-up word.
You sure? Spell it.
Absolutely. Chemicalization. So, if you look it up in the Revealing Word, which is a dictionary of metaphysical terms by Unity, chemicalization. Chemicalization, a condition in the mind that is brought about by the conflict that takes place when a high spiritual realization contacts an old error state of consciousness. Whenever a new spiritual idea is introduced into the mind, some negative belief is disturbed. It resists. And with this resistance comes more or less commotion in consciousness. This is called chemicalization. All right. Now, this can be greatly modified or eliminated by putting the mind in divine order through denials. Okay. All right. So last time I spoke, I talked about affirmations and denials and how they are used. They are used to impact those core beliefs that are in our unconscious. Okay. Those core beliefs impact everything you experience in this world. No matter what, you can say all the wonderful affirmations you want. But depending on what your core beliefs are in your unconscious, that is going to determine what you experience. So those that have done work on themselves, those that have constantly utilized those tools, at least say once a day, 365 times a year, twice a day, over 700 times a year, they're going to have less disturbance of those old beliefs. They're going to have less chemicalization, and they're going to be able to manifest more of that, which is what we've been promised, which is our inheritance. But we have to earn it, brothers and sisters. It's not just, because we've taken on these core beliefs. We've taken them on. And so every time you see that thing not manifesting, every time you see that relationship not coming, every time you see your finances, just no matter all the affirmations that you're saying, all these things that you're saying, I'm prosperous, I'm prosperous, I'm prosperous, and you don't see that prosperity coming, chemicalization. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to read a little bit more about chemicalization. And this is from Heart-Centered Metaphysics by Paul Hasselbeck. Now, those who aspire to be Unity ministers or licensed Unity teachers have to go through various metaphysical classes. Okay, there's Metaphysics 1, Metaphysics 2, Metaphysics 3, and Metaphysics 4. All right. Outside of that, there's also a class called 12 Powers, and they all have to reference this book, Heart-Centered Metaphysics. So I'm going to read a little bit more about chemicalization. Chemicalization may show up as nervousness, the appearance of symptoms in the body, sleeplessness, or the return of old desires and habits that had previously been overcome. We must remember that these elements of our life are coming into our awareness and attention in such an undeniable way so that we can choose to release, heal, or transform them. When chemicalization takes place, we have a wonderful opportunity to let our Christ mind strengthen and restore us. If we meet our challenges with a non-resistant attitude, a kind heart, and accept them as part of our growth process, we will feel more comfortable with the aspect of spiritual evolution that involves letting go of old thought patterns. Okay. So, again, like I said, I discussed at length affirmations and nows. Very important. These are tools, and I can't stress how important they are in you being able to experience that life that you deserve. Now, while I move forward, I'm going to read a little quote from A Course in Miracles. I like to read different quotes. I read quotes from the Fillmores, from Emily Cady, Course in Miracles. You'd be surprised at just how closely A Course in Miracles and unity actually are. Okay? They both believe in oneness. All right? So in chapter 26 of the text, section 7, paragraph 10, it reads, in A Course in Miracles, "Salvation, perfect and complete, asks but a little wish that what is true be true, a little willingness to overlook what is not there, a little sigh that speaks for heaven as a preference to this world that death and desolation seem to rule. In joyous answer will creation rise within you to replace the world you see with heaven, wholly perfect and complete. What is forgiveness but a willingness that truth be true? What can remain unhealed and broken from a unity which holds all things within itself? There is no sin. And every miracle is possible the instant that the Son of God perceives his wishes and the will of God are one." So, how can we tap into that interface? That's what I'm going to call our willingness, that interface, that boulder at the top of the hill. How can we tap into it, proactively tap into it? Well, the first thing, we have to be willing to become empty vessels. It's very difficult to fill a cup that's already filled. If your cup already filleth over, you have to become an empty vessel. So what I mean by that is we have to relinquish everything and allow ourselves to be filled by the ideations arising from spirit. We have to relinquish those assumptions. Our assumptions are basically, it's a way of seeing only the past. When we just basically assumptions are just basically past learnings. That's all they are. Some of us, unfortunately, use them as a way of seeing. And so everything that we've learned in the past, we use that to see the present, and we really don't see anything in the present. We just see the past. We see past learnings. Okay, that prevents us from the information that is in the present. I've talked about that in the previous talk, so I'm not going to talk about that at length. Okay? So we have to relinquish our attachments. Attachments are like strings. That's what they are, just strings. If you can see all of the attachments that people have, you'd be tripping. You'd be tripping over all the strings. You'd be surprised at how many attachments we all have.
Maybe ropes. Yeah. Chains.
Exactly. Chains. Exactly. Our expectations, we have to relinquish our expectations. Our expectations of how things and people and situations and circumstances and how they should be, and just allow them to be as they are. Stop projecting on people how they should be, and just accept them lovingly, willingly, as they are. Yeah. See, you can't see. You can't see when you have all of these expectations. You can't see when you have all of these assumptions. You can't see when you have all of these attachments. And when you have all of these things already in place, you are not going to even be able to discern the will of God, which is really your will. But you will feel certain things emotionally. You will feel upsetness. You will feel anger. You will feel sadness. And this is your emotions telling you, hey, there's something that we need to work on here. There's something that we need to work on here. Our emotions have more intelligence than us in many cases. Okay? Our emotions are very intelligent. So we have to pour out that poison that's in that cup and allow that cup to be filled from spirit. So we have to relinquish everything. I willingly relinquish my assumptions, my attachments, my expectations, all I think I know in the limited understanding of intellectual mind, while opening myself up to the infinite and limitless wisdom of spiritual mind. Now, this is a concept that's very difficult for many of us. And you know why? Because we weren't raised that way. We were raised to think conditionally. We were raised in conditional thinking and conditional wisdom. And you know something? That actually served a purpose. That was actually a good thing at one point. As we grew up developmentally, we had to have these conditional things. Like, for example, if someone says good morning to you, say good morning back. These were the things that we were taught. But we weren't meant to stay in that conditional type nature. We weren't meant to just be stuck in that conditional nature. These were training wheels. That's all they were. Training wheels to show us and help us integrate successfully into society. That's what they were there for. To make sure that society would be protected because people would be trained as they were growing up, and to prevent anarchy and just people just basically doing whatever they want, and learn the whole realm of boundaries and all sorts of other things. To learn these things, that's why we learned these ways. But we weren't meant to just keep them on forever, these training wheels. You remember when we all learned how to ride a bike? Mm-hmm. Remember how long we had to use those training wheels? You know, when we learned how to pedal and stuff, and we learned how to make a bike go right and how to make it go left and everything. And we were so proud of ourselves and things like that. And, you know, it was kind of a struggle with those training wheels. You know, it's kind of a struggle because, you might go over this way, we didn't know about balance at that point. So, we had those training wheels, So, but at some point, our parents took those training wheels off. And then we were free on those bicycles, free, flying down the sidewalk and wherever we wanted to go, we were just free. It's like, oh, this is so much better than the training wheels. This is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. Can you imagine waking up? Imagine waking up and instead of people walking and people driving in cars, all you saw was people on bicycles with training wheels. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? But that's what's happening. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing an entire world, a systemic result of an entire world that was stuck in the training wheel stage. That is what you're seeing in the world right now. You're seeing conditionalism, conditional type thinking. You're seeing, if I say good morning to you, you better say good morning back to me. That's what you're seeing. And if you don't say good morning back to me, then you have attacked me. I am upset with you because I have said good morning to you and you did not say good morning back to me. You know something? We are being called by Spirit to step into, now that we have grown into a more mature emotional state, a more mature developmental state. Now we are now being called to take off those training wheels and experience unconditional love, which is the essence of our divine nature. We are being called now to experience allowing the world to be as it is, understanding that everything is going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is everybody with me?
Yep.
All right, I just want to make sure. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. All right. So, what's the next step? The next step is we must be willing. Notice each one of these things is willing because it all depends on you. Every single one of these things depends on you. And that's the beautiful thing about life. You can either choose to do it or not. That's the beautiful thing. As free beings, we are free to basically, hey, I'm not ready to take off those training wheels yet. Training wheels just does fine. And others of us may be ready to take them off. So the next step is to establish, because the world is always changing. So the next step is to establish an axiom or an anchor in order so that you know what is true. So for example, like if you have a compass that always points north, so we cannot establish an axiom in the world unless the axiom is that all things change. That's about it. That's about the only axiom that we can actually establish in the world, is that all things change. Okay. And that will make us confused, because uncertainty gives way to fear, because we want something that we can count on. We want something that we can depend on. Okay. That does not come in the external, brothers and sisters. That comes in the internal. So we have to determine what are some truths. What is true? All right. So allow me to provide you with some anchors, some axioms. There are no mistakes in God. There are no mistakes in God. Mistakes are learning opportunities. That is all they are. Learning opportunities. Now, learning opportunities. If a mistake is a learning opportunity, which that's an opportunity where we learn and all learning leads to God, how was this mistake bad? It is only in our wanting to divide and basically like a surgeon to divide the experience into parts as far as, okay, well, this part of the experience was good and this part of the experience is bad. It is only in that where we lose the truth, where we don't really see the good that is inherent in all things. So mistakes, all mistakes. There are no mistakes in God. All mistakes are learning opportunities. God is good all the time. Everybody's heard of that one. Yeah. God is good all the time. Now, a lot of people don't resonate with that because they'll say, well, if God is good all the time, well, why do we have this? Why do we have that? Why do we have this and that, Stephen? Okay. So, as human beings, we have a very limited, narrow understanding of what really good is. It's like we have this idea that good is like puppy dogs and walking people across the street and good is giving charitably and things like that. We have this very narrow, very, very narrow understanding of good. So I'm going to create a scenario for you. A little child is running through a field that's filled with flowers. Child's chasing butterflies, just running through the field chasing butterflies. Child gets stung by a bee. Child crying runs to its mother. The mother holds the child and comforts the child and gives the child and cleans the little bee sting off and continue and kisses it and continues to hug the child until the child feels better. The child now experiences reinforcement to one of its core beliefs, that it is loved. That was all one experience. But as human beings and wanting to separate everything, we want to have like the child in the field of flowers is good, and then to get stung by the bee is bad, and then running home and, well, I don't know what they say about that. Maybe that's bad. I don't know. Going to the mom, that's good. No. Because the child being reinforced or getting the reinforcement in his core belief system that it is loved would not have happened had it not been for every single one of those things. We cannot separate those things. We cannot separate. We want to try to separate it, but that is insanity. It's like we want to just bypass everything else and say, no, but this right here, that was bad, but this is good. It's like being at the middle of a busy intersection on street level. And you got all kind of things happening at street level consciousness. Street level consciousness is what you see in the news. It's what you see people talking about. It's easy. It's easy to just go outside. That's all you do is just street level. Okay. And then there's another type of consciousness, like 50 floors up consciousness. Okay. Now, at street level consciousness, you might see somebody get hit by a car, see a little traffic accident, somebody's, help a person walk the little old lady across the street or something like this. So you got all these things. And so at street level consciousness, that's good, that's bad, this is good, that's bad, this is good, that's bad. Yes, that's definitely bad right there. Okay, that's good. Okay. The person at 50 floors up, they don't see all of that little bitty stuff. They can see what's going on further down the road. Their consciousness at that level, they don't see the little stuff. They see the big stuff. And so Jesus, in order to be a teacher, yes, he had to be at street level consciousness, but he was also at 50 floors up consciousness as well. And so what he did was he kind of let the people at street level consciousness know what was going on at 50 floors up consciousness. That's what he was doing. And that's what we're being called to do. It's easy to just go ahead and just see, that doesn't take any imagination. It doesn't take any effort to just basically see what's going on. Just look around, no effort, and just see stuff happening and just judge stuff. Just judge all over the place. That's easy. It takes no effort. And some of us are lazy with that. We don't want to bring it a little higher. We want to keep it on street level. We don't want to do a lot of work. Just keep it on street level. I don't want to do all that. Just keep it at street level. Street level, I'm just going, hey, street level. And so then when you experience street level, then you want to feel like a victim. Then you want to get upset. But all you are is just at street level. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
All right. So that brings me to another area in the creative process learner's workbook, which is available at Unity Worldwide, Unity School for Religious Studies, where it talks about chaos. We begin by acknowledging the need for and accepting the presence of chaos, darkness that may be present in our experience right now. Darkness preceded each day of creation. Our choice is to affirm that God is good, that God's good is present in the chaos, to see beyond the outer appearances to the inner truth. So in Heart-Centered Metaphysics, same book, the other book that I was telling you about, written by Paul Hasselbeck. Before light, there was darkness. Therefore, it is important that we acknowledge the chaos and the darkness in our lives and begin to see how this can be used for good and for expressing more divine will. We can use the chaos and darkness in our lives to break up our crystallized thinking, thus opening up the full range of infinite potential and possibility. So true perfection always exists, in spite of what the egocentric personality thinks in its judgments of outer circumstances. Or in other words, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So that kind of brings me to COVID-19. We've all experienced COVID-19. We've experienced the statistics, World Health Organization. We've experienced, many of us have lost loved ones. We've experienced losses in this time. On street level, we know about the deaths. We know about everything that's going on. It's right there. If you don't know about it, maybe you don't look at the news or whatever. But if all you got to do is turn it on the news, and every other channel, every other story is where we are as far as COVID-19. It's like, number 3 as far as deaths. Okay, it's gone into number 3 now. The only 2 things above it are cancer and heart disease, I believe. But it's number 3 now. All right. On street level, we can see all of these things, but I want to invite you to see this in another way, because there is 50th floor consciousness with this too. There is 50th floor consciousness with this too. So, which brings me to my next thing. Actually, that brings me to a joke. I have a joke. I know y'all probably think I was going to forget about my joke. No, I just wanted to place my joke. So Sherlock Holmes and Watson are camping. And so Sherlock wakes up Watson. And so Watson says, yes, sir. And it says, look up in the air. Look straight up, and what do you see? Now, above them, there was all these stars. So Watson's like, well, I see billions and billions of stars and Milky Ways and galaxies. Okay. What else do you see? Well, astrologically, I see that Saturn is in Leo. Okay. What else do you see? Well, meteorologically, I see that we're going to have good weather. Weather's going to be fair and clear. Okay. What do you see? What do you see, Sherlock? You fool, Watson. Someone's stolen our tent. I had to do that. I'm sorry. But you have to be willing to see things. This takes me into my last thing. You have to be willing to a second to last thing. You have to be willing to see things differently. Step number 3, you have to be willing to see things differently. There's always different interpretations of things. I began my talk with that. There's always different interpretations going on at all times. But if you're not willing to see things differently, you know something? You're not going to see things differently. If you're not willing to see COVID-19 differently, you know something? You're not going to see COVID-19 differently. But if you are willing to see it differently, the universe will begin to reveal those things to you. The universe will begin to shift and send people your way that have a different perspective. The universe will begin to shift, and you will then begin to encounter new ideas. And it's like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I was wondering about that. And here it is right here. It will begin to bring that which you are seeking, that which you are willing. And the universe is biased towards healing. It is biased. So this is healing. So if it's healing, if it equals healing, the universe, all you have to do is just will it, and the universe is just going to rush to bring it to you. Yeah. It is biased towards our healing. It wants us to be one and in alignment with our divine nature. So, the last thing I have, step number 4. Once we've set the intention, once we understand what we're willing to do, just act. Do something. You might not even know what to do, but do something. And you take that one step, and the universe will do the rest. The universe will then begin to shift in motion and move and speed. And next thing you know, things are happening at this whirlwind pace. It's like, I just took one step. But the universe is biased, brothers and sisters, towards your healing. It will always be that way. So, if you follow some of these steps, you will be able to recognize your real will, which is one with the will of spirit. You will begin to recognize it. You will begin to see it clearly for what it is. And it won't be as if you are working somehow against yourself, because yourself is one with spirit. But if you don't recognize it, if you're so concerned with street level consciousness, if you're so concerned with assumptions and if you and attachments and expectations and all of these other things that are clouding your judgment, you're not able to discern what your real will is. But when you are able to discern that real will, when you are able to get in line, when you are willing to relinquish those assumptions and let those things go, because that's past learning, when you are willing to relinquish those attachments that are just basically strings that are holding you like a puppet, when you are willing to relinquish those expectations and allow people to be exactly as they are, then you will be in alignment. And when you go up to the top of that hill, to move that boulder, although you may lack the strength, the universe will move then quickly to your aid. And even though you may lack the strength to move that boulder will move. And that boulder will then move down that hill. And as it moves down that hill, nothing will stop it or you. Now, brothers and sisters, go and be that light that your Father, Mother, God intended for you to be. Thank you.
Yeah.